Okay. So hello everyone and welcome to today's GALA webinar. My name is Isabella Massardo. I'm a content strategist here at GALA, and today I am super delighted to invite Sara Taher to give a presentation about SEO and AI. I've been following Sara for quite some time now. She has an excellent newsletter called SEO Riddler. She talks about SEO and it's very no-nonsense, down-to-earth advice. So I suggest you subscribe to her newsletter, follow her website, whatever you need to do. She also has a YouTube channel. She'll tell us more maybe. She's very knowledgeable, and that is the reason that I invited her to talk about what can we do with AI in SEO, what's the hype and what's not, what is the reality. So we'll have a presentation by Sara, and then at the end we'll have some time for Q&A. I suggest that you write your questions in the chat as you think of them, and then we'll look at those and reply after Sara's presentation. Okay, so I'm going to shut up and go backstage and leave the floor to Sara. Sara, over to you.
Thank you for joining us today here. So today, AI is everywhere. We're like, AI is this, AI that, and I'm super excited to talk about AI and SEO. Just before we get started, I want to quickly introduce myself. So I've been doing SEO since 2014. I'm an ex-startup founder. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You'll find me there posting about SEO all the time. I have 2 courses, one in Python for SEO and the other is still work in progress, SEO strategy course. I worked on e-commerce website for myself. I had an online magazine. I have a degree in computer science and engineering, and right now I'm doing a master's degree in management technology. And I am Egyptian Canadian. And of course, first and foremost and most important thing, I'm also a mom. And I'm super happy and super grateful for this opportunity to talk to you today. As we go through this, just please note that I don't see the chat right now because I have the slide right in front of me. So if there's something important, I'll need someone to jump in and speak up.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so what's going on, right? Like AI is everywhere, and it's overwhelming. It can be worrying in ways, right? So fasten your seatbelts because through this deck, it's going to get crazy. So every time you open the news, AI is something, right? Huge valuations of those companies, layoffs, and so on, right? How AI works. And that left a lot of people very worried about their jobs, for example, about the future of SEO and the future of the internet and what's happening next. So we're seeing a spike in companies adding AI. SEOs talking about AI in everything, every single thing. We do this AI, and there's even a huge shift in the tactics we talk about on LinkedIn, right? But here's the thing, and we need to be clear on this. You don't need to use AI for everything, okay? What we want to do is we want to be in a balanced place, in an equilibrium, right? We don't want to be overwhelmed, and we're seeing it everywhere, so we feel like we have to use it. Obviously, clients expect you to talk about AI and use AI all the time, but if you're looking for actual value in your output, it does not necessarily have to be AI generated. Think of AI as this new cool tool. And that's what we're going to be talking about for the rest of this deck, and also the changes that are happening in SEO. Okay, so one more thing, when you're using AI and tools like ChatGPT, just make sure you're not they're not making you lazy, because they can actually impact the way you think. You may not realize it in the moment, but on the long run, and when you use them over and over, you'll start losing some critical thinking skills, which is essential. And even when you're writing, and I'll dig into this. But so this is something I wanted to put out here because I feel it's very important and we don't talk a lot about it. Okay, so as I was preparing for this deck and I'm like searching for news that may be relevant that I would want to talk about, I came across this, and Kim Kardashian says she failed her bar exam because she relied on ChatGPT. And this is actually an example of why AI is not or should not be part of everything we do, right? So basically, we say all the time that AI hallucinates, it's just guessing the answer. Answers are training data, not facts. It's different. It doesn't know when to say, I don't know. And I always have this joke that we haven't been able to teach humans to say, I don't know when they should. So we're not obviously able to teach machines to do that. So anyways, as I said, AI hallucinates, and uh, it cost her her exam, and we're seeing a lot of social media buzz about how this is impacting yeah, how this is impacting education. Of course it is, but not in the way we think it is. People are not passing their exams and getting their degrees because they have ChatGPT. That's not the case. They're giving wrong answers, so they're learning wrong information. So that's the essence of how we should deal with ChatGPT and those tools. We need to know when to use them, when not to, and how often they should be used. And we want quality work, and we don't want to lose our critical thinking skills and delegate what we shouldn't, right? Like thinking. Okay, so as I said, as you can see, they have limitations, right? So first of all, they hallucinate, and I just want to give you the scope of this hallucination. She was studying using ChatGPT, so she got some wrong information, but um, ChatGPT can actually make up complete fake information, complete, and it has the confidence to respond as it knows what it's talking about, right? So, for example, an AI generated an entire summer reading list that includes non-existent books by famous authors. Can you imagine how dangerous this is to ask it to get you some information, and it responds, and the information looks accurate, looks correct, and they're actually far from that. So it does not, we need to understand that it hallucinates. So it basically, it doesn't know facts. The concept of facts is what is reality, what is real and what's not. That's not there. It's just there's training data, and it's a prediction and guessing game, right? So use them for brainstorming, for creating content, and I'm going to discuss this, not for anything that you need factual accuracy, okay? So if you're looking for ideas to write your uh, talk title or a blog title, yeah, sure, you can definitely use ChatGPT for this, for example, okay? And then another thing is ChatGPT does not do real work action. What does that mean? So uh, I had this earlier, I had this screenshot earlier this year, even in I think this was in December 2024. So I asked Claude what happened in January 2025, and it says, I don't know. My cut off data, the data I'm aware of is April 2024. So they LLMs and ChatGPT and Claude and all these tools may not be aware of recent events, right? So this is something we need to keep in mind. And then if you ask it to do a task, it can't. Why? And you say, yeah, I know, sir, it can send emails, but it can be more tricky because you'll see a lot of prompts where people say, type to ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, you are an SEO with 10 years experience, you are expert at like blah, 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 create a strategy based off that. This is not really any meaningful, and it's not gonna make ChatGPT more experienced when it's writing the output you're asking for. So it cannot take actions really, right? So it's just, again, guessing, right? And something to know. So basically, the output is based on the training data, the input that ChatGPT had, and created its model. And then they also have a RAG, which is an option to be able to search and get some recent news. But that's not like, it depends on the query and depends on the model and a lot of things, right? And then they're biased. And I'm just going to give you this example. I asked ChatGPT to generate a watercolor image of a digital nomad working in a cafe. It's a guy automatically. If you ask it for a doctor, it's a guy automatically, and so on. Keep asking it for stuff. It's a white guy, probably automatically. With all due respect, I'm just saying it's always there's a very, very high potential of a specific stereotype for job roles, for example. So it's also biased. So when we look at all of these things, that's you need to have all of these things off the top of your mind when you're dealing with AI, okay? And trying to use it for SEO. So, okay, Sarah, thank you so much for all of this. How do we use it for SEO the right way? Okay, so here is how I use AI for SEO. I use it for writing and rewriting. And when I say writing, I don't recommend you use it to write from scratch. What I mean is that you write your own things, you write your initial draft, do your work, and then you can run it by ChatGPT and ask it to make modifications, to rewrite, rephrase, fine tune, expand on that part, like describe it better maybe than you can. So there's reports, for example, that 50% of the internet right now is AI slop, which is basically AI content. And that's a problem because it's just any output that's generated by AI is something they've already read somewhere else, right? There's no real, genuine expert advice there. So it's right, like rehashing what's there. So that having this AI slop out there is not healthy for the web, right? Everything, it's just a repetition of everything else, and that's why I think if you stick to starting with yourself, starting with doing your best, putting your own thoughts, the way you describe, the idioms you use and the metaphors and the jokes and whatever the way you write, right? The way you're thinking about things, and then use AI as a tool versus go to AI and, hey, generate a summer reading list, right? Then that would make a lot of difference. And then the second thing I use AI for is summarizing when accuracy is not important. When I just want to get an idea of what is this about, right? And then I would read it. But if it's an important thing, then I will obviously need to go back and reference check everything that it said, every important fact, right? But for example, if you can use it to summarize things, or you have a good experience in, like, so for example, I can use it to summarize an SEO article, because if it says something weird or off in SEO recommend, like in terms of SEO, I know this is wrong. But if you're asking it to summarize something you have no good background in, how can you tell if this is right or wrong, right? Or accurate? It can even say something that's right, but not very right, or not fully right, right? So this is where you want to sort of, you need to double check, right? I use it to generate images. I use it for brainstorming. Excellent tool. Sounding board for brainstorming. I use it for coding. And this is where you'll learn that Claude is better than ChatGPT, for example, for coding. But then you learn that ChatGPT is better than Gemini by a mile when it comes to writing content. So you learn that each platform, each AI bot has a strength and has obviously, I wouldn't call it weakness, but it's not that good compared to other models in specific areas, right? So everyone is focused on ChatGPT right now, which is okay, but you're missing out on a lot of powerful outputs and more maybe elaborate outputs if you're not testing out other models. And then obviously I use AI to automate SEO tasks, which is what we're also going to be talking about in a second. Okay, so we have an idea of what's happening. We have an idea of AI hallucinations and how to use AI and how not to use AI. So how to automate SEOs, right? How to use it to be more efficient in our outputs. Okay, so first thing, I recommend is you find your use case. The biggest problem I find with people sharing AI automations is sometimes it's field pushed in, like we're trying to use AI just because so we can go around and say we're using AI, or they're using AI in such a way that the output actually is not valuable anymore. So, for example, if you're using AI to like you give it a main keyword and then it's gonna pull the top 10 results from Google, and based on the keyword and that input, it generates a blog. That's not an efficient use of AI, in my opinion. I mean, you're generating blogs and you can do it fast. Like you can give it a list of 10 or 100 keywords and it's going to do that 100 times as much as needed, right? In one click. So in that term, it's efficient, but in terms of quality, it's not quality efficient, if you want to say that. So that's not a good use case of AI. So when you want to use AI, you want to find a way where the use of AI is going to enhance your work. It's going to help you do things you can do manually. So, for example, one use case is analyzing search titles, right? So you give it an input keyword, you scrape the top 100 results, you get the titles, you find the most common keywords, and it can suggest a set of titles, right? Not one title, like, hey, we have this keyword, these are the 100 top 100 titles, we have all these common keywords, so it shows you the process, what's happening within, and then suggests a set of keywords, and then this a set of titles, and then this is where you come in and it helped you be more efficient. Instead of you scraping the 100 results, you going through the titles and analyzing them yourself, and then brainstorming a bunch of titles based on all the information you gathered. It can help you there, right? So that's an example. Another thing you can do is you can brainstorm with ChatGPT or other LLMs, right? If you don't know where to start, you can just go and, hey, what tasks can be automated with AI? What for keyword research, for content creation, for whatever. As I said, don't use it to just create content. Let's not do that. But there is a lot of things in the middle, a lot of research work it can save you, a lot of analysis, right? Like it's some things that need like it needs to be done at a scale that you can do that manually, or if you do manually, it takes a long time. So go ahead, brainstorm, and find the use case where using AI is going to make the output actually better if you're not using AI. So if you go back to our content creation example, if you use AI to create content, as I said, you give it a keyword, it scrapes the top 100 results, it looks at all of this and generates a blog. Is this blog better than the blog you would have written, even if you were not able to go through the top 100 results? Chances are no. Like maybe it has more information, for example, but maybe your angle, maybe the things you include there is probably better, right? And that was AI slop we were talking about. But if you look here at the title example, yes, I think if I use AI in this use case, the output is going to be better. So you judge a use case and whether you should use AI or not by the quality of the output. Okay, I think I've been rambling here a bit, so I'm going to move to the next slide. Second thing, you need to pick your platform, right? So something, just in case you're not familiar with the concept of API. So an API is like a server in a restaurant, right? You go, you ask the server for coffee, for example, they go to the kitchen and they bring it back to you. That's the same this is an example of what an API does. You get an API for Google Search Console, for YouTube, for any tool. So you get its API and then you ask it for specific data. It goes to the tool, brings the data and brings it back to you, right? So what you want to do is you want to learn how to use different platforms and use APIs. So maybe you want to use LLMs for your day-to-day, ChatGPT, and the basic examples we talked about, brainstorming and so on. Maybe you want to use Python, and there is where you code, and you can use an agent, coding agent called Klein that is crazy. It's crazy. It literally uh, shows you how it's like a developer coding right in front of you, testing the code and going back. So if you want to experiment with this, you can go with custom GPTs, you can use AI agents. You need to figure out what platform you want to use, right? There's a lot of things out there. There's also, I'm going to discuss that as well when I talk about more elaborate examples later on, but there are so many tools. So you have your use case. Your next step is finding the tools and understanding what type of data you need for your use case, and where you're going to get it. So let's say you decided to automate your monthly reporting. So you'll probably need API for Google Search Console, for example, because you can get all your search data from there. So reporting, and then the second thing is Google Search Console, and then the third thing is deciding on the tool, okay? Then you need to create and test. And you'll see a lot of people on LinkedIn or other social platforms, and they're like, I saved 200 hours and I kicked my entire marketing team and I replaced them with AI. That's like a huge exaggeration. Creating a good AI tool, first of all, is not going to replace your good employees. Second of all, it takes a lot of time and a lot of testing, right? So here's an example by Jonathan Bischoff. If you're not following him, I really recommend you do. I'm not affiliated with Jonathan, by the way, but he's really sharing a lot of AI tools that he is creating and teaching people how to create AI tools. And you'll find his content very useful in that area. So here's an example where he's talking about he created an AI-powered on-page SEO assistant, and it took him 20 hours and 2 weeks of testing. And then you may think that's a long time, but you're building a tool that you're going to be using over and over and over, and it's going to save you time also on the long run, right? So building a good tool is not a one click thing, or something that's going to take 30 minutes. And all of these things you may be hearing, or the impression you're getting from people, that it's so easy and so simple and it's going to take you no time. There's some effort that you need to put there. And I think it's important to have this expectation, because if you start playing around with a platform or a tool to automate a task and you find it complicated, don't get discouraged. This is how it's supposed to be, and this is how it was for everyone. You need to have just some patience and keep going, and you'll get there. Okay, so you have your use case, you have your API, you have your platform. You create and you need to test, and you'll learn how to test as well, because you need to test for different cases and make sure that the output is to the level of, or to measures up to the standard that you wanted, right? So and this skill is really important. Testing, you'll learn as you go. There's nothing specific I can tell you other than just have patience at that stage. Okay, examples. Okay, so Elias is also really shares a lot of great content, automations and about data as well, but probably more technical than Jonathan. But if you're more advanced user of like you're maybe into coding a bit or more complex platforms, you also want to check Elias. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. I hope I'm not butchering his name. Anyways, so he created an AI-powered bulk content audits, right? So it can audit content in bulk and give a score for each article, and it does a whole bunch of things. That is super cool, right? Another example is a Python code I created, which basically takes a list of URLs, run them by an LLM, and generates a meta description, right? This is here the output for that. And then you have another example. If you're not familiar with programmatic SEO, it's when you create a lot of pages automatically. Like, let's say you create 100 or 1,000 or millions of pages without having to create each page individually, like in a sequential way. You're doing it automatically. So there are situations in SEO where you may want to launch 1,000 pages in one click. And these situations where usually pages are not content heavy. What I mean by content heavy, they're not informational pages. You want to see an example, a good example of programmatic SEO, go to Airbnb, for example, or go to any flight bookings, or go to like any platform that has a replicable template. So, for example, I worked in the past in a flight, in a travel company, and we created a program. I don't know why it's hard to say. Programmatic platform, and basically we wanted to create a page for each route from this city to that city, from this city to that. So you have tons of cities and tons of things you can book, right? Like New York to Toronto, Toronto to, I don't know, BC, but like there's tons of things. So you are not going to create those pages manually. You want to create them automatically. So um, I just want to highlight when because I mentioned earlier, you shouldn't want to create a lot of content with one click, but that is for informational pages. If your page is how-to guides and best things to do, I don't know, like information, the purpose of the page is information, do not go all AI on it, like create 100% AI generated pages. But if you're creating a page that is primarily transactional, users, okay, you know what? Like what else? Like logo maker for small business, logo maker for bakery, logo maker for hair salons, and so logo maker for, like, if you have a long list of professions and industries and that sort of thing, and you want to create a logo maker page for each of them, again, this would be useful because this is not an informational page, it's a transactional page. So the content there is not big deal. What happens on the page is more important. So what you want to do is you can automate this easily, and you get a list of keywords, and then you run them by LLM to create. This is also very powerful because this page is not content heavy. As I said, you need like a small paragraph or something. You can run your keywords by LLM, create unique text for each single page, right? And then you can use an AI agent to create the entire page for you on WordPress or whatever you're using, right? The AI agent can even add images, optimize the URLs, and all that sort of thing. One thing to know, if you decide to use programmatic SEO, you will, for informational pages, you may get to see a spike in performance. Your pages may perform well. Why? Because you have created a lot of pages in a very short time. This may actually, Google may start testing those pages and see what's happening there. But I do not recall seeing any case where programmatic SEO of informational pages, 100% AI generated, would last successful, like a success case that lasts more than 3 to 6 months, and then you'll lose the traffic, right? Because then by then Google would have figured out that these pages are just AI slop. So that's why I don't use this for informational pages. Yeah, and that is another example of where you can use AI. And then AI agents, this is what everyone is talking about. I really think everyone should experiment with that at some point. The easiest or one of the simplest tools you can use there is maker.com. Maker.com. Very, very easy to use. So this is basically you building your own AI assistant. And remember when I said ChatGPT cannot execute on tasks? It cannot send emails. It cannot, upload to your WordPress. It cannot, a lot of things it cannot do, right? It cannot take actual actions on other websites. AI agents can. So you can actually go to maker.com and make.com and create a whole thing, any of the workflows we discussed, right? Uh, I want to see it like this example or the programmatic SEO example. So you can basically say you go to AI agent and you to make.com and you give it a Google Sheet. So you can connect it with Google Sheets. You give it a Google Sheet with a list of keywords, and then create a workflow where this agent uses ChatGPT or whatever LLM you choose to create like that small text, right? And then maybe go to your WordPress, create the page for each keyword, add the text, add an image, add whatever you want to add there, optimize the URL, publish the page, and then it can even, let's say you also want it after it publishes the page, it can also publish it to your different social media accounts. It can also post on your Slack. It can send a newsletter for you, right? So you can create an agent that does everything for you in a specific task. And I really think you should give it a go at least once. Don't expect it to be simple. I have a tutorial actually on YouTube. I was using make.com, so it's very useful to check it out. And again, you start by thinking about the use case. If you're a complete beginner, I recommend looking at someone else's use case, a simple use case first, and trying to replicate that. And once you have something that's working and you've learned the process, and that shouldn't be complicated. If you have a tutorial, your walkthrough tutorial, then you can start customize this and make your own workflows and AI agents. Okay, so as I said, there are two different ways you can, there are different tools and a lot of platforms, and there are different tools I want to share with you that you can use to create an agent. So no code agent, N8N, although N8N has a lot of advanced features, maybe you don't want to use that if you're starting, but make.com is really, really good. AirOps as well. So these are no code AI agents. There are code solutions, but we're not discussing this right now. I really recommend you start with make.com, and just heads up, I'm not affiliated with them. Okay, that was a lot, right? I feel it was a lot, but there is more. So we talked about how to use AI in doing SEO work, and we talked about when not to use AI, but we also want to talk about how AI is changing the way people search. You've probably heard the news. A lot of websites are losing traffic from informational keywords because users are now finding the answer in search, in AI overviews in search. They're also using ChatGPT for, to get the information, which we discussed has its drawbacks. But people are searching in a different way. So in the past, it was awareness, consideration, decision. This is the funnel, right? Right now, it's a conversation and backward and forward and a lot of questions. And after that, users go to Google. Like they end the conversation at Google to verify the facts and to make the purchase decision, which is the good news, right? But the traffic to your informational pages is definitely decreasing. However, you still need to create those informational pages. Why? And that complicates things, because when your traffic is decreasing, you'll have a hard time getting buy-in from your stakeholders. Like, how are you going to measure the value of informational content you're creating? You want a budget of that amount, this or that, to create content. Okay, what are we going to get out of this? In the past, you would use keyword search volume to do forecasts. Right now, you can't, right? because you don't know what's happening on ChatGPT. We don't have visibility there. So, as I said, users, the studies have shown that users and the after they learn the information they need on ChatGPT, they verify it on Google, and then they use Google to make the final, like they go make it the purchase, find the brand or find a specific product, right? So this is a change in the behavior people use search. People are right now come to your website more informed. So that's something to keep in mind. You want to cover your like you need to go to LLMs and see how people how these platforms are talking about your brand, when they're recommending your brand and when they're not. You need to play around there. There's a lot of AI tracking tools. You may want to use them if you want, but the good news is you can create your own AI tool to monitor how you're performing on those uh, AI platforms. And it's not complicated, by the way. So doing keyword research is not enough. You need to understand how your position and how you're getting cited and mentioned in you and your product and your brand on ChatGPT and other LLMs, and what is missing. So, for example, I recently updated my Python for SEO course on my website. I left it with a small paragraph and just a video of how people use Python for SEO. It was very basic, and I did it I said this is for now, and then I'll update it later. So I updated it, and what happened is once I updated it, AI overviews would have more information about my course, right? So you need to see where do you have the place where those tools can find all the information about your product or service? Do you have all the information about your product or service? Like, I didn't have reviews about my course on my website, which is doesn't make sense. And I also had screenshots, which it's complicated. Are those tools reading the text and the images or not? So why not put it in text, right? So you need to go through this and see what's happening there. Okay, so AI is changing the way people search. Also, AI changed the way search works. So this also means it changes the way we do SEO. This is a huge debate going on right now in the industry. Is SEO and GEO, and SEO is the same as GEO, and I think there's a difference. Okay, but the problem is depends on how you're looking at the situation. And what are your expectations? There's a huge overlap between generative engine optimization and traditional SEO. There's a huge overlap, but then there's things you wouldn't naturally do. You will find yourself in specific instances needing to update the page just to get better information appear about your brand in ChatGPT, right? So traditional search was people search, and then the query, Google goes out there, or like you're using Google or Bing, and you get the information. It was pretty straightforward, right? This is what the user searches, and this is what is being processed, right? Pretty straightforward. But right now, user searches, and then they're using LLMs. So LLMs generates a lot of different queries, right? Investment advisors near me, and then investment advisors in general, investment advisors by city, investment advisors reviews. Like, it goes through a lot of variations around the keyword that the searcher typed. And then LLMs go and pull information from a lot of places. It's training data, the knowledge it already has, and then it may check search websites, visuals, files, local listings, social channels, user-generated content, Reddit, for example, Quora, YouTube. 25% of answers in AI overviews are from YouTube videos. Perplexity I've found Perplexity often and often refers or gets information from YouTube videos. So it takes all of this information and curates an answer to you, right? So very different approaches. So the way we're doing search is different. We were very focused. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so traditional SEO, Google is king. Everything is a checklist. All our workflows is rigid. Optimizing, basically, we're just checking as many items of our checklist as possible, and we heavily rely on SEO tools. We are focused on technical, on page, and off page. And then the tools we're using were traditional SEO tools like Search Console, GA4, like the traditional Ahrefs, Screaming Frog. And there's nothing wrong with those tools, by the way, but this is how we've done it for a very long time. And the main content type that we were optimizing for, the only content type we were talking about, is always text. And text on your website specifically, right? This is how we worked. This is how we should be working right now. So now Google is still king, but we also look at LLMs. We also look at YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google if you skip image search. TikTok, a lot of people get their information from TikTok. Reddit. Reddit is a problem everywhere right now. It's being used in training data. Google is giving it a lot of visibility. You need to look at Reddit in your strategy right now. You have your checklists, but you also need to be agile and creative because we don't know everything yet. No one has everything figured out yet. And optimizing means following best practices, but also testing things out. We're relying on traditional SEO tools, but also building our own tools. It's a new era. The three buckets, technical, on page, off page, but we also adding new buckets like conversion rate, user experience, data analysis, automation, testing. And then the tools and the data sources we have, all the previous ones apply, but then we're also using things like Microsoft Clarity, Hotjar, Lucky Orange, combining all of these, right? And using them in ways we didn't use them before. And then content types, we also have video. Video is very important for SEO right now, in my opinion. For AI overview cited, as I said, 25% of the time. Perplexity, you have a video filter in search. You also rank on YouTube. It's just everywhere. So it should be part of your strategy, right? So in summary, after I have shared all of this, no one knows all the answers. The only answer and the only way to adapt in this new era is to be agile, test out ideas, open, always learning. And yeah, I want to give you some time. I think I'm done. So we're good. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll take on the questions now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. If you have any questions for Sarah, if you're very practical ones, just write them in the chat. I saw something from Malen, and she wanted to know which AI chatbot works better for you, Sarah. Malen uses DeepSeek and ChatGPT, but maybe you want to recommend something else. Malen is actually a content writer, so.
Content is definitely ChatGPT. I've tested them all. ChatGPT, the wording and the phrasing is definitely better there. Claude, great for coding, and it also like it can get you new ideas ChatGPT did not when you're brainstorming for content. It can give you different angles. DeepSeek is more scientific. If you're trying to understand scientific, I'm not sure how, maybe research, but I mainly rely on ChatGPT and Claude. I've used Gemini a bit. I'm not a fan of it, but you'll like factually, ChatGPT is great for content, Claude for coding, anything else is, give it a try, right?
Okay. Ellie had another question, but I think you kind of replied to it, but it's still interesting to repeat. With LLMs and AI reshaping Google search, is SEO still necessary? Can we say already that SEO is dead or is about to die, which is something that's been said over and over in the last years? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the media is just exaggerating and creating those clickbait titles, and you have a lot of people on LinkedIn as well trying to sell their services. SEO is far from dead, and the reason for that is numbers. Google is still the biggest traffic referrer on the internet. 90% of the world, or 85% of the world's traffic to websites comes from Google. So ChatGPT sends very, very minimal traffic right now. And there are reports that the adoption rate of ChatGPT also is very low compared to Google. There's no comparison. And there are reports, I'm not like I don't have the actual data, but something to look into, that their adoption rate sort of slowed down. So it may not be for everyone, right? It's not something people asked for. It's rather something people created and trying to get people to adapt. So
yeah. And I wanted to ask you a question because you mentioned Reddit, which is a source of information that sometimes we forget. I don't know, maybe you guys can raise your hand if you want to. How many of you use Reddit or Quora for research, for either keyword or topics? Or is there anyone? You can open the microphone. No one? I'm curious. Alejandra, you use Reddit?
I've used it Reddit sometimes to look for specific reviews, yes, but not on my day-to-day.
Okay, thank you. Anyone using Quora? No? Okay. And I know that Sarah wrote something about, hold on, you guys, Pinterest as a search engine. You want to explain that a little bit? Why is Pinterest so interesting if you're in a certain sector, of course?
Pinterest is one of the most underutilized platforms out there. It's like hidden in plain sight for some reason. Obviously, it depends on the industry and your niche, but I can see a lot of businesses benefiting if they adapt their strategy there. A lot of people use Pinterest to find things and for discovery, which is something obviously you want to be there for your business, but it also appears in dominates specific searches in Google. So if you're like in fashion, DIY, home decor, like that area, or others, there's a huge like a huge part of a lot of industries that can really benefit from Reddit, Pinterest. And one of the things is there's not a lot of focus on it. Like you'll not find a lot of people talking about it, which means for some reason it's ignored. I don't know why. Like we should be able to leverage that instead of fighting collectively over the small pie of ChatGPT or a huge competition over Google. There is Pinterest, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a curious one. I see that the question. I used to use Google to see how many hits a given search would yield. But now Google doesn't show the number of hits. So do you use any search engine besides Google or Bing that could be helpful for this type of research, or the benefits of using other search engines to avoid the AI summary, which is pretty annoying, I find, in Google. I try and switch it off, that AI overview. What's your advice on this?
Just for you to know, if you go to Google Trends and search for AI overviews, that was a while ago. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but you'll find one of the most popular keywords or searches related to AI overviews is how to turn it off. Okay, so yeah, and then Google can go and say, hey, this is one of the most popular features we ever. Anyways, okay, so your best data is your first party data, right? You have to deeply look at Search Console. I live there, just for you to know. I live in Search Console, and Google recently made an update in the way it allows bots to access the search results, and the impressions in Search Console dropped because a lot of that was just bot traffic. So right now you should have good estimate of how the interest in keywords, right? So if you're launching a new website, maybe or you're launching a new blog, it's okay, by the way, to go ahead and write it and do your best. Launch it, monitor it in Search Console, see what queries it's getting visibility for, and asking, are these the right, like, is this what I want to rank for? If yes, great. If no, or yes, but you're not doing well, you're not getting any clicks, then you can go back and update that content to adapt to those keywords. So and sometimes I can also go to Search Console and find keywords I'm not getting clicks for, because I'm getting some visibility, but not clicks, like impressions, but not clicks, because my website is relevant, but I don't have a page dedicated to this specific keyword. So I'm like, okay, this is a good find. This is, first party data. So I recommend playing around there first, and then you can use tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush, Mangools, if you're looking for something that's not that expensive. And then you also Google Trends, Keyword Planner as well. It's free. And it does a great work of segment, like you can put a keyword and it can segment. So for example, dresses, it can get you evening dresses, maxi dresses, white dress, like it shows you category of dresses people are searching for. And you can use this information to, for example, build category pages on your website if you're an e-commerce, right?
Exactly. Let's see. And what I like is that you can also connect Google Search Console with Looker Studio. So you can create your own reports as well and retrieve all the data. So that's also pretty cool. There's another question. Is there any way or strategy to rank in ChatGPT or to get search visibility of your company on ChatGPT, basically?
News is that they found a lot of pages and websites being referenced in ChatGPT. They're not doing good on Google. So you don't need to necessarily be doing great on Google. So that's the good news. The way to do this, the way to get better visibility on ChatGPT is, here's an example. I have a newsletter called the SEO Riddler, and I want to get cited in ChatGPT. So I go there, all the time, I ask it, tell me top SEO newsletters in Canada, top SEO newsletters worldwide, and even for my Python course as well. And I find those and I try to figure out where they're getting their backlinks from. And I found a lot of these are getting backlinks from listicles. So I started reaching out to people who created those listicles and asking them to add my newsletter as well. You can also create your own listicle, by the way. And here's the thing, if you can niche it down, really, really down, whatever your product is, there isn't, you niche it down or zero in, narrow it down, such as there's not a lot of listicles competing against you, your chances are higher as well. So listicles, getting people on Reddit to, if you have, I'm not saying spam Reddit or anything, but if there's a way you can get people or your customers or whatever to drop a review on Reddit, that would also help.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's see, anyone has other questions? Would you use, oh yeah, here it is. From Nikki, can you recommend training for creating AI agents? And what would you need to know first Python to create an AI agent?
You don't need any coding experience to build your first AI agent, right? You can go to make it, and there's a lot of tutorials. Start with follow through a tutorial that's very simple. It doesn't even have to be a relevant use case for you, like just something you understand and see how they built the workflow, and then you learn how to use it. It's one of the easiest platforms out there to build an AI agent and to automate your processes. If you want, Python is more about more technical tasks, more data analysis tasks. Like if you're still at the beginning and all you want to do is a simple automation or just some automations for yourself, yeah, I just don't. You may not necessarily need Python.
Okay, let's see. Would you use AI for SEO that is for a Your Money Your Life website?
I mean, in writing content, definitely not. It would be minimal. It would be, if your content writer is an expert in the field, they can use it to rewrite or rephrase because they know what they're talking about. If you have those generic copywriters, they're not medical experts or legal experts, I just don't recommend they do that. I recommend they rely on, like, someone needs to QA this. You can't push medical data or legal information that's not been through from AI directly to your website. I just don't recommend that. It's a recipe for a mess, a disaster.
Yeah, and very dangerous. Okay. Let's see. There are other questions. Any insights on off-page SEO, like which platforms to use?
Page. I recommend, okay, you have, again, first-party data. There's a link report in Google Search Console. It shows you like your most linked content. It shows you what websites are linking to your content. So start there, but if you want to expand on that, you can use like Ahrefs, for example.
Okay, excellent.
Write the name if you're not familiar with Ahrefs. That is a great tool.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Let's see. I think we don't have any other questions, but you know now where to find Sara. I put the link to her website in the chat, so feel free to go ahead and contact her. And Sara, thank you so much. It was very useful, very practical, and no nonsense, just like I expected. And yeah, again, everybody, thank you so much for joining the conversation. I hope you liked it. I hope it was useful. And now let's go and do some serious human SEO, which I think is the most important thing. Thank you again. The recording. Thank you, Sara, and have a good day in Toronto.
Yes, please feel free to reach out, guys, if you have any questions. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Just add me as a connection and ping me a DM. I'm happy to help. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Yeah, you too, Sara. And the recording of this webinar will be available tomorrow. So I'll send a follow-up email to all of you when the recording becomes available. We have another webinar, just in case you're interested. It's going to be on, let me see whether I can remember, November the 13th. And we're going to talk about building LLMs in an app. And we're going to have Tori Podmajersky presenting. So please join us then. Everybody have a good day or a good evening, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.